The man accused of stabbing a female student at a Cape Peninsula University of Technology residence in Belhar in Cape Town has briefly appeared at the Bellville Magistrate's Court.
He was arrested shortly after the incident and now faces a charge of attempted murder. A video of that attack has been widely shared on social media.
And SABC News reporter Corbin August has more.
We are crossing to you now from outside the Bellville Magistrate's Court, where a suspect has just appeared for attempted murder, and that's in relation to the incident that we've seen over the weekend, where a 26-year-old student, a female student at the CPUT campus, was brutally attacked and stabbed. So the 30-year-old suspect, he was the person who appeared today in court, Ntombeko Mayalo. And his matter has now been postponed to the 20th of November next week. That is for a formal bail application. But joining us now just to talk to us more about this case, we do see some supporters in the ANC Women's League. They've also come out to oppose the bail application and to also share their views on the matter and what happened. And joining us now, we do have the Provincial Secretary for the ANC Women's League in the Western Cape, Tozama Bellville. Tozama, thank you so much for talking to us. So, Tozama, let's just start with, we've seen the case, the matter that has been heard today. So far, just what's the ANC Women's League's view on this incident?
Good afternoon to everybody at home. We are here to reject and to support Sinokolo. We are here to support Sinokolo, to say that justice must be done for Sinokolo. As she was stabbed by her husband, we are here to support her because she is the victim. And we are saying that this chap must rot in jail. We don't want any bail for him. He must rot in jail.
Okay, and then just with regards to what happened, would you say that there's a bit of a scourge, a bit of a high prevalence of GBV incidents, and what do you think needs to be done to combat this issue?
You know, there's a scourge. Hence, even the president have decided to say that GBV is an epidemic. Is because of the scourge of GBV. Something needs to be done. We know the government is trying its best, but also our people, our communities must stand up. Our girls, we need to support our boys, because I don't know what is happening behind that man that is there. I don't know. I think he's messed up, really. You can't stab a person 20 times. Stabbing, that's inhuman. And what I saw something very, very, very funny that killed me, that killed my soul when I saw that picture over Facebook. That when he was stepping, there's no person who's right upstairs who can do that. I feel that that is inhumane.
And with regards to proceedings today in court, he did make a brief appearance and the matter has been postponed now for bail application. Just what's the ANC's position now on the bail application? Will you be opposing? Where do you stand?
We are saying no bail. No bail. He must not get, he must rot, in fact, he must rot in jail. He must rot in jail.
Right. And maybe a message to some of the other people who are struggling with GBV, wherever they are.
I think what is important for us, for our girls as mothers, I think that they mustn't really stay or stick with somebody that they can see that that person is not right, because we believe that this chap raped a person before. He was arrested because he raped a person. So our girls must be very careful who they work with, who they have relationship with. So I want to really urge them to be careful in what they are doing. Also, our boys, we need to come up maybe with programs for our boys, because we always cater for our girls and maybe we forget about our boys. Maybe we need to do something when they are still young and try to also talk to them about what is happening in life. Maybe that will help.
All right, we'll stay with this conversation at some point in our bulletin and really speak to a clinical psychologist. I mean, listening to the Women's League, they're saying that we need to come up with programs for our boys. Why now in 2023? These are programs that should have come into play a long time ago. So these are some of the conversations that we'll have as we are looking at why do people take out their cell phones and film these incidents and not help? Is it an evidence gathering mission, or is there something else? I mean, others, through our question tonight are saying that it's for content. So is content that important to, especially when you look at how either helping a life or not? So we'll speak to a clinical psychologist just to also get a sense of how we've been socialized now when it comes to violence. Are we numb? And these are some of the questions that we will be asking tonight. What a distressing story, but let's stay with this and ask, why do people film others in distress instead of helping them? And also, why do they film themselves, committing some of these gruesome acts? And what does this say about how we view violence? And, as you've just heard, police arresting a Sibanye-Stillwater employee in connection with the murder of his colleague. And there's also a video of the attack, in full view of onlookers, which has been widely circulated on social media. And this footage shows a man wielding a knife and stabbing the victim multiple times in the upper body. At the same time, students at the University of the Western Cape were left traumatized after one of their peers was stabbed by a CPUT student at her South Point residence over the weekend. Now, the incident was caught on camera and the footage has also been widely circulating on social media. Let's speak to Khosi Jiyane, who's a clinical psychologist who's joining us live now. Khosi, thank you so much for your time. Let's start perhaps with trying to understand why people film others or themselves. In fact, let's start with those who are filming others in distress instead of calling for help or maybe reaching out to help them.
Hi, good afternoon. Theory and research suggests that the more people there are witnessing an incident of distress, the less likely people are to intervene, because there is a sense that someone else will do it and not me. And the opposite being that the less people there are, the more people are likely to feel empathy and have a sense of personal responsibility to take action and intervene in a situation. I mean, it defies logic in a sense, because you would think the opposite, that if you were just the only person or there were few of you, you may feel that you will not be enough to effect any change in the situation. But the opposite is that people outsource personal responsibility. And so on some level, I mean, it's asking the question about what has happened to people's sense of moral obligation to help others in distress or in need.
So what does it say then about how we view violence?
Well, it says a number of things. I think most potently it says that people perhaps on some level have been exposed to so much violence that it's just become the norm. It's just become part of the social fabric, that people aren't stirred by it as much as they used to be before. But it also suggests perhaps that there are a number of phrases in the social fabric where people don't have a sense that anything different will happen. So on the one hand, people raise their hands in helplessness, that I don't know what happened here, I don't know what the issues are, I don't want to find myself meddling in things I don't know. But secondly, people also assess their own safety. So if you are witnessing an incident such as the two that are being referred to now, the question is, what is the risk to me if I intervene? What are the chances that I may also find myself in the same position as the first victim? Because if this person was capable of such action against one person, chances are they can continue
and I wonder,
to do the same to me.
I wonder then what element also is played by social media, because it's our viewer question tonight, and some of the viewers are saying this is also further compounded by the social media element of it, because other people are looking to create content and trend, and that for them is yet another layer.
Sure, that certainly cannot be overruled. I also do want to say that there is a positive element to the documenting of an incident, because we know that should anything happen of that situation, or a criminal charge is laid, there will always be a call to evidence. And therefore, there is some value in documenting the situation. I think the challenge we have here is that cannot be the only thing we do, because that becomes a form of active passiveness, in that we are passive to the situation that's happening, but we are actively doing something else that is not intervening in the actual situation itself.
Khosi, there's something else that I really would like to understand here. Please help us understand what goes on in the mind of a person who also films themselves committing a heinous crime or an act on someone else, and filming themselves and circulating that particular video. What's happening in the mind of a person who does that?
I guess on the one hand, it suggests there is moral decay. There is a death of empathy. There is a brazenness about it. And there's a narcissistic element or histrionic element to it, of creating drama, a sense of bravado and showing off. And it's a trophy that they are capturing. And therefore, one that in this day, as you aptly said, the days of social media, it becomes an archive that they want to be out there. People have a greater need, and I think the proliferation of social content, as you were saying, has made it possible for people to look for attention at all costs, without due consideration of the actions that they, have taken them to that attention, as it were.
All right, I know we're out of time, but very briefly then, what is the trauma suffered by someone watching that particular video?
There is no doubt secondary trauma suffered by somebody who watches that. On the one hand, and most immediately, is the fact that we know that the human mind is unlike a camera that captures the photo and that's the end of it. We know that the human mind, if I may use the analogy, that the music continues long after the song has played. In other words, it will continue to play in the person's mind. It will continue to haunt them, perhaps, beyond the actual events that have happened. And there therefore needs to be ways in which they are going to manage and mitigate the damage of this image and experience in their mind. And it becomes part of the trauma, the album of trauma that people are collecting, and feel overwhelmed, and in the end perhaps get numbed by, because there's so much of it happening in society.
Khosi, thank you so much for putting it into such perspective for us tonight. Do appreciate your time. That was Khosi Jiyane, a clinical psychologist.